The 90s was an interesting period of time when it came to gaming in general. It ushered a huge shift in the video game industry in terms of technology and visual style. Arcades were gradually dying out as home gaming consoles became more prevalent. 2D sprite graphics was slowly transitioning into the 3D era, which was further accompanied by the evolution of the gamepad controllers as analog controllers became the new industrial standard to adapt into the 3D generation. The market for handheld gaming consoles was also taking off as it became more popular and accessible to the general public. Overall, the technological advances in gaming proved that it wasn't just a fad, but rather it was here to stay, permanently changing our culture dynamic. It appealed to people both young and old, male or female, showing just how relevant gaming would be involved in our lives in modern society.
Nintendo of America is headquartered, and that's one company that's out to prove that video games aren't just for kids anymore.
Tomorrow, yuppies, young adults, take to Nintendo. Year 1 out of every 3 homes in America will have Nintendo. That's how fast it's growing.
How long did it take you to get blinking again after that?
I don't know. You look at yourself, you realize you're a zombie staring into that screen playing.
It's scary stuff. It's scary stuff.
While the gaming industry was going through its technological evolution, game developers followed different media trends in order to capitalize on the popularity and to forge their own brand identity. One of these trends was the Mascot Platformer craze of the 1990s, following the great success of Mario, Donkey Kong, Mega Man, and Metroid in the 80s. Game developers attempted to cash in on this trend by making their own mascot icons. These mascots were often anthropomorphic, like beings that were characterized by their own unique personality quirks. Some mascots had attitude and were often able to talk, giving off a cool personality, while others were barely able to speak, only relying on making weird grunting sounds and cartoonish noises to appeal to a younger audience. These mascots would often star as the main protagonist in their respective series, with all of them following the usual story plot. They would run and jump through various linear levels until they reached a boss to defeat them, either to save the world from destruction or to save a damsel in distress. Nearly all mascot platformer games followed this basic formula. This often caused people to call certain games clones or rip-offs of whatever predecessors they were inspired from. A common example of this is that some people would call Crash Bandicoot a Sonic rip-off since they share some similarities. Evil Scientist as the main antagonist? Check. Protagonist having an intelligent and nerdy sidekick or ally? Check. Both are furry-like creatures with attitude? Also check. Despite the similarities, these two series were different enough to be their own unique thing when it came to gameplay mechanics. It's not exactly a fair sentiment to label everything a clone, since every game takes inspiration from older previous works such as films, books, or other games. After all, Sonic's basic character design was inspired by old cartoon classics such as Felix the Cat and Mickey Mouse, since the original artist for Sonic, Oshima Naoto, wanted his mascot to be a hit with the American audience. Would it be fair for Sonic to be called a ripoff of these classic cartoons? Of course not. Sonic was able to forge its own identity, even inspiring other games in the process. Though there were a few cases where certain mascot icons got tangled in a messy copyright infringement lawsuit, though that's a story for another time. Each mascot platformer game that spawned during the 90s had its fair share of fame in the spotlight, some lasting longer than others. One and done titles like Rocket Knight Adventures, Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel, and Jersey Devil quickly disappeared from the scene, while other characters such as Bubsy the Cat, Croc, Gex, Banjo-Kazooie, and Rayman were able to produce a few sequels in their lifetime over the years. In the end, all these old icons eventually faded into obscurity. Even though the glory days of these past franchises are long gone, some are still remembered today in one way or another. Banjo-Kazooie's existence was recently acknowledged as they were added in Smash Ultimate in 2019 as a playable character. Bubsy the Cat also had a new game released in 2019, but it was met with mediocre reception. Lastly, Rayman is in a weird limbo state where it's permanently trapped in mobile game hell without ever showing the prospects of having an actual console release anytime soon thanks to Ubisoft's management. Despite whatever success these old icons had in the 90s, trends do change over time in the gaming industry, which caused the platformer genre to phase out in the 21st century. Only a handful of 90s mascot icons were able to persist throughout the 21st century, such as Sonic, Spyro, and Crash Bandicoot. Sonic still releases new console game titles every once in a while, and recently had a largely successful movie released in 2020 that will surely bring an optimistic outlook towards the franchise's future. Meanwhile, Spyro and Crash were almost forgotten, but luckily Fate has decided to reboot the two franchises. Spyro's original trilogy was completely reignited, and it had a very positive reception from fans both new and old. As for Crash Bandicoot, it also received a trilogy remake with the same positive reception. Not only that, but Crash is even getting its newest sequel released in 2020 that will potentially be a huge successor to the original trilogy. The success of these old iconic franchises in the 21st century still proves that platformer mascot games are still alive and kicking. It's just that the golden age for this genre is well past its prime as the trends in the gaming community evolve over time. Even though it may seem that the game studios have completely forgotten about this age of gaming, the fans themselves, the regular people that adored these classic icons, will never forget no matter how much time passes. Many hope for their favorite series to be next in line for the grand revival, clinging on to that desire to relive their nostalgic days. Well, that's it for story time, folks. Until next time.